School Love Story is quite an extensive introduction, a prestigious private school in a small town. The school is known for its academic excellence and rich history. Main characters: Lila Andrews, a quiet, bookish girl who excels academically but struggles with social anxiety. She recently transferred to this new school. Ethan Carter, the star athlete, charming and popular, but secretly grappling with expectations and family pressure. Lila's best friend Maya, Ethan's close friend Josh, and a few other classmates. Lila feels out of place at her new school, while Ethan, though admired, feels trapped by the pressure to maintain his perfect image. They don't know each other yet but are about to cross paths. First meetings: Lila and Ethan meet for the first time in the school library when Lila is helping out as a volunteer. Ethan, struggling with his grades, is forced to seek tutoring, and their worlds collide. Romantic tension: Ethan is initially dismissive, thinking Lila is just another girl uninterested in sports. But soon, he begins to appreciate her quiet confidence and intelligence. Theme: first impressions and misunderstandings, opposites attract. Developing friendship as they spend more time together. Tutoring sessions turn into long conversations. Lila and Ethan begin to form a genuine friendship, learning more about each other's struggles. Subplots: Ethan is dealing with pressure from his father to pursue a sports career, while Lila is still dealing with being the new girl and trying to make friends. Romantic spark: small moments where their chemistry begins to build, a shared look, a moment of vulnerability, etc. Rising conflict: Lila starts to develop feelings for Ethan but believes they are too different to ever work out. Ethan, meanwhile, starts to pull away as his family's pressure mounts and rumors about him and Lila begin to spread. External conflict: a school dance is coming up, and Maya encourages Lila to ask Ethan, but Lila is too scared. Ethan, on the other hand, is conflicted about going with his usual crowd or asking Lila. Self-doubt, external pressures, and the struggle between fitting in and following your heart. Turning point: the dance becomes a pivotal moment. Ethan asks Lila to go with him, surprising everyone, including Lila. At the dance, sparks fly, but a misunderstanding causes a rift between them. Confrontation between Lila and Ethan, where they both reveal their insecurities and the pressures they face. Honesty and vulnerability in relationships, overcoming obstacles together. Resolution: after some time apart, both Lila and Ethan realize how much they mean to each other. Ethan decides to confront his family about his future, and Lila learns to open up and trust in her feelings. Ending: Ethan surprises Lila with a heartfelt gesture, and they finally admit their feelings for each other. The new girl. The sound of the school bell echoed through the wide hallways of Kingsbury Academy, signaling the end of another day. Lila Andrews clutched her books close to her chest, her heart racing as she navigated the unfamiliar corridors. It had only been a week since she transferred here, but it still felt like a maze of strangers and whispers behind her back. Kingsbury was nothing like her old school. Everyone here seemed to know each other, their lives interwoven with memories she hadn't been a part of. The pristine uniforms, the grand old buildings, everything about this place was intimidating. She didn't belong here, not really. The only solace she had found was in the library, tucked away in the far corner of the campus. Lila sighed as she entered the large, quiet room filled with the scent of old books. The librarian smiled at her as she made her way to the desk. "Here to help again, Lila?" Mrs. Miller asked. Lila nodded, smiling slightly. "I like it here," she admitted. The library had become her safe haven, away from the cliques and social circles she didn't understand. "Well, your help is always appreciated," Mrs. Miller said warmly. "We've got a few new students needing tutors. Think you could take one of them?" "Of course," Lila replied, her voice soft. She enjoyed tutoring, it was easier than trying to make friends. Books and knowledge made sense in a way people didn't.
"Great. Let's see. Ethan Carter. He's a bit of a challenge, but I think you'll be able to handle him." Mrs. Miller handed her a slip of paper with his schedule. Lila frowned. She had heard of Ethan. Everyone had. He was the school's star athlete, popular and charming, always surrounded by friends. The idea of tutoring him made her stomach twist with nerves. But Mrs. Miller had faith in her, so she nodded and took the assignment. Lila packed her books, her mind racing with a mix of apprehension and curiosity.
She imagined what it would be like sitting across from Ethan, trying to get him to focus on algebra or chemistry. He probably thought of academics as just a minor inconvenience, a far cry from the world of Friday night games and weekend parties that he ruled. Yet, the thought of letting Mrs. Miller down stung more than her nerves. She took a steadying breath, reminding herself that she was chosen for a reason. Maybe this was her chance to make a difference, even if it was with someone like Ethan. As she walked toward the library for their first session, Lila's mind swirled with doubts. What would they even talk about? Would he scoff at her notes or shrug off her explanations? She tightened her grip on her books, focusing on Mrs. Miller's words, "You're more than capable, Lila. Trust yourself." Arriving at the library, she spotted Ethan already seated at a table, casually flipping through his phone. He looked up as she approached, offering a charming grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Lila straightened her shoulders, forcing herself to smile back. Lila sat down, bracing herself for the challenge ahead. She opened her notebook, feeling his gaze linger on her as she arranged her pens and papers. Forcing herself to focus, Lila cleared her throat and began explaining the basics of their first topic. Ethan nodded along, but his expression was unreadable, half bored, half curious. "So," she said, looking up from her notes. Ethan shrugged. "Not really. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. I just don't get why I can't figure it out on my own." There was a vulnerability in his voice that surprised her. For a moment, the mask of the confident athlete slipped away, revealing someone almost uncertain. "Sometimes, it just helps to have a fresh perspective," she offered, softening. "We all get stuck. You're not alone in that." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, his smile seemed genuine. "Maybe this won't be as bad as I thought." Lila felt a small flicker of relief at his words. She hadn't expected him to let his guard down so soon, and for the first time, she wondered if maybe she'd misjudged him. Returning his smile, to her surprise, he was quick to catch on. When he got an answer right, his eyes lit up with a mix of surprise and pride that made her smile in return. "See," she said, tapping the paper. "You're getting it." "Yeah," he said, chuckling softly. "Guess I'm not as hopeless as I thought." The library settled into a comfortable silence as they worked side by side. And in that quiet moment, Lila realized that maybe tutoring Ethan wasn't going to be as daunting as she'd feared. As the session continued, Lila found herself relaxing, even enjoying the rhythm of explaining concepts and watching Ethan's face light up in understanding. Each time he grasped something new, his confidence seemed to grow, and with it, her own. Ethan leaned over the paper, brow furrowed in concentration. Lila watched quietly, resisting the urge to jump in when he hesitated, letting him work through it himself. Finally, he wrote down an answer and looked up at her, an almost shy glint in his eyes. She checked his work and grinned. "Perfect. You're getting the hang of this." He laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that made her smile. "Honestly, I didn't think this stuff could make sense. You make it easy." The compliment caught her off guard, and she felt a blush creeping up her cheeks. "Thanks," she mumbled, hoping he didn't notice. As they packed up their things, Ethan glanced over, his expression softer than usual. "Same time tomorrow?" Lila nodded, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Yeah. See you then." As she walked home, she couldn't help but smile, feeling that maybe, just maybe, she'd found a new kind of connection she hadn't expected.
Lila nodded, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Yeah. See you then." The words slipped from her lips, but it was the way her heart raced that truly captured her feelings. A meeting with Maya, the new girl in town who had captivated her with stories of determination and grit, felt like a turning point, a chance to explore a friendship that had been unexpected but welcome. As she walked home, the cool evening air brushed against her skin, refreshing and alive. The street lamps flickered to life, casting a warm glow that danced along the pavement, illuminating her path. With every step, Lila couldn't help but smile, her thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. She replayed their conversation in her mind, recalling Maya's laughter and the way her eyes sparkled with passion when she spoke about her work. For so long, Lila had felt like an outsider, trying to fit into a mold that didn't quite suit her. She had watched her friends engage in the same routines, discussing things that felt superficial and unimportant to her. But Maya was different. She was bold and unafraid, an embodiment of strength that resonated deeply within Lila. In a world where she often felt small, Maya's presence was like a beacon, showing her that there was more out there, a world of possibilities just waiting to be explored. With each passing block, Lila's heart swelled with the idea that maybe, just maybe, she'd found a new kind of connection she hadn't expected. A friendship rooted in shared dreams and aspirations, rather than the limitations that often came with their upbringing. Lila imagined the conversations they would have, the stories they would share, and the laughter that would fill the spaces between them. Arriving home, she paused at the front door, the familiar sight of her house grounding her. But tonight, the walls felt less confining. They were a sanctuary for her thoughts, a place where she could dream of new adventures. As she stepped inside, Lila knew that she was ready to embrace this new chapter in her life, one where she could break free from the expectations and find her own voice, perhaps alongside Maya. With a newfound determination, Lila sat down at her desk, grabbed a notebook, and began to write. Ideas flowed freely as she penned her thoughts about the upcoming meeting, reflecting on what it meant to forge connections and the strength that came from friendship. And in that moment, Lila realized that the path ahead might be filled with challenges, but she wouldn't have to walk it alone. With Maya by her side, she felt empowered to face whatever lay ahead.